us have spiritual amnesia, where we forget what God has done for us. We forget what the end goal is. We forget who God is in our lives. We're comfortable. We're lukewarm. I was talking to my friend one day, and she mentioned that phrase, spiritual amnesia, and I'm like, wow, that's so true. Like, we're so quick to forget the things that God has done for us, or we're so quick to forget who God is when it may seem like things aren't going well in our lives. We forget about God's sovereignty, and we forget that there is eternal life in heaven with Christ that we ought to be aiming for. That's the end goal. And we forget that. We have spiritual amnesia. This spiritual amnesia kind of like allows us to sit in our lukewarmness. Our spiritual amnesia is a choice, right? It's a choice because being lukewarm in our faith means that we're familiar with the two extremes. We're familiar with the hot and we're familiar with the cold, and we choose to sustain neither. We choose to have one foot in the kingdom and one foot outside in the world. And according to the Bible, that's not the way it should be. Being lukewarm offends God because that means that we're not all about Him. 50% of our attention is going into something else, whereas 100% of our attention is supposed to be on God. We're knowing truth and we're knowing life, and we're choosing deception and we're choosing death. And that offends God because, the gospel, the good news, says that the wages of sin is death. And what God did was so that we didn't have to pay the price, we didn't have to die because of our sinful nature, is that He sacrificed His son Jesus, so that He could become human like us and be the lamb to the slaughter and be the one that has to die so that our debt can be paid. Our debt of death was paid by Jesus Christ. And now we have this gift that we don't deserve of eternal life, of grace, of the ability to say, Lord, forgive me, I love you, and I want to be a part of you, even though we are sinful beings. Revelation 3:5-16 says, I know your works. I know that you are neither hot or cold. You are lukewarm, and I spit you out. 2 Timothy 3:5 says, having the appearance of godliness, but denying the power thereof. So you want to go and you want to, God is saying you want to go and you want to proclaim my name. You want to call yourself righteous in my name, but, your heart is far from me. And so I'm going to spit you out. You got to choose. You can't serve two masters. And Matthew says you can't serve two masters. It's either you're serving God or you're serving the devil, you're serving the world, you're serving money. And I think about it this way. I like to drink tea, and I know that a lot of people like to drink tea as well. And let's just say you go into a cafe and you get, you're ordering a cup of tea. It's a cold day. Like right now, I should really have my jacket on. But you order a cup of tea. It's a cold day. And you get the tea, and it's lukewarm. You're like, you get upset because you're like, I'm expecting hot tea for this cold day. And they hand you this lukewarm tea, or this tea that isn't as hot as you desire it to be. You'd be upset. This doesn't benefit me anymore. This doesn't serve a purpose for me anymore. When tea cools to the point where it's lukewarm, me personally, I feel like it's no longer desirable, and it has lost its purpose as being this hot tea that's supposed to warm me up. And I also think about it like this too, like who wants to drink lukewarm hot chocolate? If you go somewhere and you're buying hot chocolate, who wants to drink lukewarm hot chocolate? I might as well just drink Yoo-hoo and put it on ice. It's either you're hot or you're cold. And similarly, what God does to the lukewarm Christian is He spits them out because they are no longer serving a purpose. They're no longer living in the purpose that He has given to you. Lukewarm faith leads to complacency and going through the motions without any passion or any devotion. They don't desire to lead a holy life because they are distracted. And back to the tea. Back to that tea that is now cool to the point of being lukewarm. It's still sitting there in the cup, but that's all it's doing. It's just sitting there. It has no desire to be consumed. But here's the good part, the good news. God is never too far away. We are never too sinful to the point where we can't go back to God. Fire exists, kettles, microwaves. You can reheat the tea. You can go from lukewarm to hot. You can reignite that relationship with Christ by choosing to serve Him wholeheartedly, by dying to the flesh, picking up your cross daily, by remembering that you can't serve two masters. You can't serve Christ and serve the world at the same time. You have to be cold to hot. Choose this day who you will serve.